What's up, everyone? Darth Moocher here, kicking off your week with another Moocher's Monday, a series where we kind of explore life and Star Wars, where life and Star Wars merge as one beyond the movies. The first episode that I did explored the community itself and how we communicate with each other and how we kind of consume in our brains Star Wars 24/7 and how it impacts our lives. Another key aspect is where I kind of want to bring in this week and start a conversation of this because by all means is this not a one and done conversation. I plan to explore it more, plan to bring in other people and um, go beyond this talk. So the physical part of Star Wars, the stuff you see behind me, the collecting aspect of it, why we surround ourselves with Star Wars and other IPs, but mainly Star Wars. But like 20, we sit in our rooms and we stare at it. What goes through our brains? What keeps us buying? What keeps us wanting to live it beyond the movies? Because I know one person asked me told me a long time ago, is like, well, why do you collect toys or why do you collect stuff? When you could just watch the movies over and over. And I kind of had to go with the whole what we do, from last week's conversation was well, I do that, but I also, when I'm by myself and stuff, I like to have a room surrounded myself with my favorite pop culture icons. And it helps just kind of escape the day. It kind of gives me it's hard to say a purpose, but it does give you some sort of fun. I will say that. We'll say fun, not purpose. Um, so some sort of fun when you walk out the door beyond your normal stuff and beyond everybody what they do, but like toy hunting is a very frustrating but yet rewarding when it happens um concept in our lives, and I say our, I'm hoping that it encompasses everybody who collects, but I really am speaking to a I guess my age, because my age and generation, because I don't see young people, I don't see older than me in the toy aisles. I see me, which is a very odd thing because it makes me wonder: is it going to die, with us? Is it going to be die with our generation, or is there still enough flame and wanting to collect and live, Star Wars beyond us? So that's something to ask. I know there's other podcasts we follow, and they're younger, and I love it, and they have collections behind them. So maybe I answered my own question there. But is there enough of it? I know that I have never come across a Star Wars fan that hasn't collected something Star Wars in their life, even if it's current or in the past, like they've gotten rid of their Star Wars collections or they're, starting it now. It's like hand in hand. Oh, you watch Star Wars? What do you collect? It's like, it's not do you collect, it's what do you collect, right? I've seen everything from, like I said, salt and pepper shakers. Someone just collects nothing but kitchen, appliances, and their whole kitchen is Star Wars. That's still collecting. Um, you have to excuse me. I go on tangents a lot, so I'll bring it all back, to the purposes at hand. So I will, veer off left and right a lot. So it's just the way I think, or it's the way we all think, because I think we're all the same again. Um, but ever since that I can remember, my earliest memories, I've always saw and recognized Star Wars in a corner. And it was from the toys, obviously, but it was also from our bed sheets, our wallpapers, our underoos, our shampoos, our salt and pepper shakers, everything like that was. It's always a thing, and it made me wonder about the psychology behind it. And I was talking to Scott Solo with this, like how we wanted to explore the psychology of a collector. Okay. Um, Myself, I've been collecting since I was 18. This is my second collection behind me because I've sold again. I went through the whole thing. I stopped for a couple years and I fell off the wagon big time, and I started another collection. And that collection is beyond whatever, and it's just fun. It gave me, like I said, a purpose and a fun to walk out the door and do something. But as far as I can remember, it's hand in hand. Um, Star Wars started a collecting craze, in my opinion. Yes, there was 12-inch GI Joes, Hot Wheels, Barbies, and stuff like that, and I think there were collectors, but not at the point where people saw way into the future about hoarding, boxes of Star Wars toys and then keeping them pristine, and then you either for resale or for just keepsake value or whatever. I only know of one person in my life that actually did that as a kid. Well, I know him as an adult, but as a kid, Mando Mike. told me that he actually uh, saved everything that he got, or most everything he got as a childhood, and played with his neighbors' toys, but kept his pristine in the boxes. Like he had a Millennium Falcon in the box, from the original vintage. Um, he foresaw something, he foreseen something that this was going to be something of value in the future, or just maybe he just wanted to preserve what that was at that time, which is fantastic. But I do want to think that Star Wars started a a world phenomenon when it came to plastic. When we came to the plastic that we collect, it kicked off generations of toys and IPs, and the pop culture as we know it. So if you're a Marvel Legends collector, if you're a GI Joe collector, if you're a Transformers collector, thank Star Wars. You don't have to like it. I know a lot of people in the Marvel world, they don't like Star Wars for some reason, but you have to give them thanks. You say thank you, Star Wars, for giving me what I have today, because without Star Wars, you don't have what you have today. It was for us and the craze and the fandom that propelled, and buying everything that propelled every single IP out there today. When you look at the toy aisles, it's all there. It's all started from that pinpoint. So the philosophy, like I said, when I was going back with the philosophy, I'm like thinking like, okay, why do I since I was like 18 years old and there was nothing in the stores, but I seeked it out through pawn shops, antique stores. I think Suncoast and the malls, if everybody remembers Suncoast and malls, by the way, they had a little Star Wars section with like PVC figures, 12-inch and porcelain mugs. But that was it. I mean, there was nothing, it was scarcity. But there was something in me that just wanted to buy that stuff, right? It was something in me that wanted it, not to show off at that time, because Star Wars wasn't a talking point, you know, 20, 30 years ago. Um, or like early 90s, let's put it that way. It wasn't a thing that people, they'd like, oh yeah, I remember Star Wars, and stuff. And then what happened was, like, again, I'm always going to refer to this as a generational thing. We got jobs, we got money, and we started seeking out items from our childhood to put on our shelves. I've never seen that since. I don't know. I might be wrong, but I've never seen that since. And we propelled this movement, this momentum to for the toy companies, I think, to really kind of bring it all back. It's like, oh my God, the kids have money now, or they have jobs. Let's put it that way. They don't have money because we spend it all on Star Wars, but they have jobs, and now they're gonna buy the stuff that we produce. And it helps that we had more movies. But when we collect and we consume, um, what does that drive to keep us back? That keeps us going back for more. And like I said, is it a nostalgia trip, a childhood thing? Sometimes I say, yeah, it is. For the most part, I like, even in my first collection was when Kenner reissued all the Star Wars toys, and I bought everything. Chris and I bought everything, from Power of the Force to the Phantom Menace, beyond all that stuff. We had rooms, we had Star Wars rooms. And for me personally, I would love to sit in there and just kind of meditate on life and Star Wars, and not necessarily going through the movies in my head, but just living in this physical Star Wars museum that I built for myself. And it made me feel connected to it. I think even more so than talking to my friends about Star Wars or having a podcast. Sometimes when you have these physical things, it connects you even more. And then the other half of it is, I love talking points, right? I love to go and see other people's collections, and ask, and they have taught, and they have stories about certain items, the most expensive item or the hardest get, or like I said, like with Mando Mike, who is one of our loyal listeners on the Sarlacc Digest, and a good friend. He has stories of, this is my childhood Millennium Falcon, mint in the box. Like, how does that happen? Because I destroyed my toys. I set them on fire. I buried them. I drowned them. The toys that I had in my childhood, I don't want on my shelves, because they would be distorted bad. But anyway, I digress. Um, Having those talking points when people come over is awesome. It's fun. It just kind of like validates your fandom, no matter what. You want people to know you're a pop culture geek. You're a geek in general, and you're proud of it. And this all, kind of confirms it, right? And it's fun too. It's harmless. It's fun. Um, we all have the competition too. Believe it or not, don't let anybody fool you and say, "Oh, I'm so proud." I mean, we are proud of other people's collections, but we're also envious, and we are in the competition of like, I have to have this before somebody, or I have. Sorry, this little beard hair is in my way, so I'm constantly playing with it. But again, tangents, right? Um, um, this is what happens when you do something by yourself. Just kind of like you have nobody to bounce off. Anyway, um, we all have this competition streak in us, you know, especially if we're collecting the same thing. We want to display our figures better. We want to have a better room, a better shelving, better, more stormtroopers, more clone troopers. We all have that streak. It's innocent. It's fun. Competition breeds, innovation, and we tend to get more into our collecting, which is great because it's nothing better to go to your friend's house and see them improving their displays over and over and over. It's just great. So again, talking points, nostalgia. That's all we've known. Star Wars and collecting. I think it just happens to be, it happens to be a perfect marriage. You know, I am in the comments. Let me know if what you collect. First off, what you collect. I'm curious if it is like salt and pepper shakers. I want to see it. If it's nothing but hundreds and hundreds of salt and pepper shakers that you collect, I want to see that. That would be impressive on its own. Um, but yeah, I'm fascinated with the philosophy behind it. I'm fascinated with the psychology behind it. Um, Fascinated and bothered by the psychology behind it. In a minute, I'll tell you. So Pulse Con was this last weekend, and it just finished. And what made me really think about the psychology behind collectors. So I'm going to kind of veer off a little bit and get into um, some a little bit of a rant on the people that are creating these figures, but nothing that you haven't heard before. And my 2 cents when it comes to this, because I think there's two different schools of thought when it comes to collectors collecting the physical Star Wars. There's the glass half empty, and the glass half full. Okay. I was watching the comment section when the Star Wars panel was going on, and I was just like, man, this doesn't help our cause as a toxic fandom. Last week I talked about toxicity in the fandom, which I draw a hard line when it comes to the movies, but when it comes to the collecting world, there's a lot of validation on both ends. People mad about there's a problem in the Hasbro Star Wars products, and it is the repackaging, and it's the constant reinventing themselves in the sculpting and the packaging world, and all that stuff. Now, a couple schools of thought on that. As a collector, and speaking for the people that I know, and basically what they would say and stuff is, you know, the glass half empty concept runs, I think, is taking over the collecting figure world, the figures, because people are starting to look at their collection and starting to wonder, or not wonder, but they're starting to get upset about what's not there, right? What's missing in their collection. They're not looking at what they've got anymore. They're looking at what's missing, because year after year is going by, and we still haven't there's a slew of characters that they haven't even touched, but yet they'll continue to produce the same figure, just different packaging, over and over and over and over. I mean, in some cases 10 times over. Or in the case of the Mandalorian, they're just pumping if Mandalorian gets a scratch on the shoulder, there's a figure with a scratch on the shoulder now. And meantime, we don't have Cantina aliens. We don't have Jabba's palace, guards. We're not fleshing out our collection. So there's the half empty glass, the glass half empty crowd that's getting louder. What's missing? What I don't have. Hasbro, here's the releases. Here's the 10 figures we're producing in the next 3 months. They're not looking at what they're getting, they're looking at what they're not getting. And I can't blame it. I can't blame them. I'm not in that field. I'm the half full kind of guy. I look at my collection and look at, like, wow, my collection could expand to all these things. They gave me 10 releases, but those 2 releases I don't have, so I'm going to be glad to take those and put on my shelf and wait for the next wave. There's other 8 figures. I'm not going to buy them because I have them. but it's it is kind of depressing in our collecting world. Our first world problems that I'm not getting 8 figures to put on my wall. I'm only getting 2, but I'm not discouraged. I'm a patient collector. I'm a patient collector now. I wasn't on my first collection, but I'm learning to just kind of like look at what I have and looking at what I'm getting to put on my shelves to expand my collection and how it works. Um, but it's becoming a problem. You know, it's becoming a problem with the existing collectors. Now, if anybody wants to jump into it, it's actually Hasbro's made it very very easy to kind of jump into the collecting and start from this point on because without breaking your bank and buying 10 years worth of figures because they are constantly taking figures and repackaging up into an anniversary package and you can buy them at retail and then put them on your shelf and you're like I had that figure that came out 5 years ago, but now I got it yesterday because it's a brand new package or whatever. So it's easy to insert yourself into the collecting world and then go from there. It's what I did. I got into it when the line was like 3 years old. Um, when the guys got me my first figure and I fell way off the wagon in the collecting world, I jumped right in and I felt I didn't miss a beat. I had to go back and collect some, but all the reissues caught me up really fast. So maybe that's my you know rookiness of it, I guess, or the guys who've been in it from day one, from the Black Series. I'm talking about a specific line in the collecting world. So maybe it was frustrating for them, and that's why I get it. Like I'm not bashing anybody who has any philosophy on their collection and what they're not getting and versus what they're getting. I just feel that something's going to give and something needs to change pretty fast because all around it's becoming an issue, where people are going to start quitting, selling off their collections because they're like, if I'm not going to get this, I'm never going to get it. And therefore, if I don't see it, if I never had it, that's fine. So I don't know. Hasbro needs to kind of take another look at, you know, what how they're distributing or they're coming up with their list of toys. Um, 2 or 3 figures every 6 months, brand new is not enough. I'm not talking about new IPs. Okay, like Andor came out, they have a whole slew of figures lined up. They only came up with four, yeah, I think 4 figures for the series that's half over. The season one, almost half over. So, and we're not getting those till next year anyway. But I don't know. I'm not in the business. I don't know the problems. I don't know the distribution, all that stuff problems. But I'm just talking about, like I said, the philosophy and the psychology behind us collectors and how we surround ourselves and how we look at our collections, how we deal with our collections. I use the action figures because it's like my focal points, like 90% of what I collect. So this can apply to any level, right, of Star Wars collecting. Um, I do want to bring in other people and see how their collections evolved from Star Wars, from action figures to something else. I know that Chris, one of the main hosts on Starlight Digest, he collects the Funko Pops, and this is his second collection too. He was like me and had a full Star Wars room with all 3 and 3/4 figures. He got rid of it because of the repackaging and repeat, same as me. And now his 2.0 collection is the Funko Pops. He buys them all. He has an amazing collection of that. So I kind of want to talk to him, right, about why didn't you get into the 6 inch like I did, with the figures, the toys, versus why did he go into that, which was it's a niche market. I mean, Funko is huge, but the Star Wars is niche. Not every Star Wars collector collects the Funko Pops, but he's all in. So I kind of like have these questions and want to and see how he got into it, what keeps him going, and how that collection is different in his mind than his original collection. You know, I know what the answers are on mine. I went to the 6 inch because it was the first time Star Wars ever 6 inch. So I figure I can get in there and I can have this awesome collection that I never had, and that could be Chris's excuse too. It'd be awesome. So I do want to explore a lot of it. I do want to talk to a lot of people about their philosophy on when they sit in their room and they're staring at their collection, right? I want to what goes on in their head. Are they reminisce? Are they recreating the scenes and and they're looking at their collection, or are they going like, man, I love these so much. It's a nostalgia trip, or you're appreciating the sculptness and the art of it, or like I said, I for me, it's more of just losing yourself in this thing. I'm not necessarily thinking about Star Wars when I stare at my Star Wars collection. It's just something that comforts me and gets me through, you know, more stuff because I look at it and go like, it's such a fun hobby to get into. It's such a fun hobby, a rewarding hobby. Because I look at it also like, how can I improve my display? Um, Talking about like how when like the guys come over, I want to see the reaction when I add, some sort of diorama that I added to it, beautification of your collection. I want to see the reaction to it. So I'm always thinking about that too. But then also, I kind of get lost in my own thoughts in my own room, and it's fun. Everybody has their vices, and I think this is well, I'm not gonna say harmless because I could have saved a lot of money. What would I do with that? Eat it, maybe drink and eat it. I mean, that's that's probably what I would have done with it. I would have ate more McDonald's and, and more fast foods. And here, at least I have something I can resell if I needed to. Um, or it's something physical. Like I said, put it on the shelf. Now I have a story of that too. So it's all fun. It's all again. I don't remember a time without seeing Star Wars somewhere in my life. Beyond the movies, beyond watching it. Right, watching the movies puts you in a different mind space, but collecting it puts you in such a personal mind space when it comes to it. When it comes to Star Wars and beyond. So I don't know. We'll explore this further. So as you go through your week, of your busy work schedule and everything, think about your collection. Think about what you collect, and if you don't, let me know too. If you're a huge Star Wars fan and you talk about this stuff and you never collected a thing in your life, that might prove me my way of thinking wrong. I'm like, oh wow, okay, there are exceptions out there, which I haven't come across any. Um, maybe people haven't let me know that they've never collected a thing in their life, just because it doesn't appeal to them. But they're still a Star Wars fan and they still talk about it and they still live and breathe it 24/7, which, just because you don't collect doesn't make you any less of a fan. It's just that I figure it's almost like peanut butter and jelly. It just goes hand in hand, man. Like the Star Wars was created for this epic adventure, but also the physical epic adventure of plastic. The plastic addiction going forward. So, yeah, let me know. Let me know in the comments. Again, we're gonna explore this further, get people on, do it up, and until the next Moocher's Monday, I'll figure out maybe I'll get a guest on, and then we'll move on from a different subject. But we're definitely going to revisit this again because it's an ever growing thing. So, like, subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Thank you, everybody. Tune in on Wednesday when we break down Andor. Tune in on Fridays when Hot Topic drops. That's Chris's deep dive on Star Wars movie and Disney Plus subjects. And of course, I'm not gonna say every Friday and Monday, but Fridays and Mondays are reserved for these two spots. And then Moocher Mondays, we're gonna break down Star Wars' life and how we live Star Wars beyond the movies. So thank you, everybody. Like, subscribe again. Again, like unlike, no, don't do that. Just like and subscribe. Tell a friend, and thank you. I will see everybody on next Monday. I won't be here on Wednesday for the live show, but yeah. Take care. May the force be with you.